My name's Rhapsody, his name is sneakyteak, and welcome back to the Ladder Streak. How's it going, bud?
It's going well. Glad to be here.
Giving us a little bit of the DreamWorks face, the old boss baby, the old Barry B. Benson.
I'm just excited to play some Ironclad. I've been dreaming of eating the whole Spire recently.
Ooh, let's get a feed off the bat. Let's do it.
Just right from the very beginning, huh?
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to give us that. We have the enemies in the next three combats.
We're still max elites. Lest we forget our rule system from now until forever.
Ooh, we actually have choices, though, because this represents 3, but we also have a path out here that represents 3.
Oh, nice. And that's arguably a better looking path.
Mm-hmm. 2 midline upgrades, really valuable.
Yeah. No fire before, though. So it's a pretty savage start.
There's
then we get upgrades.
Possibility that we can snipe this elite with the upgrades, but all with the enemies in X3 combats on 1 HP, but we could also just upgrade Bash and kill it.
It's true. You know, it's funny. If we do snipe it, I suspect that enemies in your next 3 combats have 1 HP is an upgrade.
Yeah. Saves you the
because
HP.
Then we'll have enough health to be able to get that extra upgrade later.
The thing that it really deprives us of is it deprives us of the early fights because we want to go for 3 question marks to try and maintain it for that. So I'm assuming we're leaning towards the upgrade for the Bash.
I am. Are we committed to that line, or is it actually possible that the Spicy Elite line is better? Oh,
the Spicy Elite line is...
It's brutal.
Rough stuff. I feel like we're probably going left.
I like upgrade, and I think we're taking all the fights. I agree. Take advantage of our relic. I recently had an Ironclad run where I did a boss swap.
How'd that go for you?
This is almost never something that I recommend, but it worked out quite well. It was what we needed for the start. Granted, I think I ended up getting some really solid sustain, like maybe a meat on the bone or something, which is almost like cheating. That says Carnage.
That does say Carnage, and you think something's almost like cheating? How about Carnage that does 50% more damage a lot more of the time because you've got extra turn of durability?
I like that card.
Get him.
Web. Nice. Good pickup. More pickups. May I ask who our boss is?
You may. It's the slime boss.
Okay. So second wind? You want another Carnage?
What about
Rhapsody.
another Carnage, though?
There are limits. There are reasonable limits.
There are. But we got free upgrades early on. 1, 2, possibly a third.
I don't know
slime
about
boss?
2 Carnage, dog.
Okay, so it represents a problem in the deck right now, which is we can draw hands that have 4 cost or even 6 cost with the extra Carnage.
But we're always getting a 2, we're almost always having at least 1 in our hand, which is good. It's way better than strikes, right? And certainly with 2 Carnages and a Bash, we're done for that kind of damage.
For me, it's about increasing the consistency of drawing it on the right turns after we have a Bash out. But it's also, if we do get an Energy Relic, I know this is speculative, but if we do get an Energy Relic, I'm really happy to have a turn that's just double Carnage or Bash Carnage.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
I'm happy to go with second wind because my lean here is... Honestly, my lean here is probably 60%, but that's just because I don't always love second wind, and I seldom take it.
Oh, second wind's so good. The thing that, if we didn't have 2 fights ahead of us, I'd be like, yeah, no, take the Carnage. Pure saturation of solid damage cards. I would much rather have a couple 1-cost attacks, given that we've already drafted a Carnage. And we wouldn't even regret them with the Energy Relic later, and if there's something solid like Pummel Strike, we won't regret them with Snecko either. One thing that's worth... Oh, nice. This makes us glad that we have Burning Blood. One thing that's tricky in this game, for me still, after 2,500 hours, is what is a good hand? What is a good hand, right? Is a good hand a hand that you can play all of? Is a good hand a hand that has all of the answers in it? What's the right proportion of a hand to be able to play? How often can you afford a card to be dead? Like, what's that right number? You know, how many numbers of corruptions is the right number of corruptions, right? Because you do these things that you know won't work together, but they're buying you probabilistic consistency, or they're buying you a certain representation across your hands. But what's the right hand? It's a hard question.
It's a really hard question. It's one that I talk about in a different way, specifically talking about, like, you know, is the good hand the one where you can play all of the cards in hand, right? A thing that I talk about a lot is expected energy expenditure per turn. And that's me saying, you know, if I take a 0-cost card, I'm reducing the expected energy consumption per turn, or expenditure rather, per turn, pretty significantly. And then after the amount of energy that you generate is larger than your expected energy expenditure per turn, and you don't have a lot of draws, suddenly I'm like, okay, well, now you're missing out on value, right? That is an attempt to maximize the cards as a resource in terms of value. But that's not the only thing you can do, obviously, because like a 3-cost card is often better than 3 1-cost cards. It's difficult. It feels like usually what a good hand is, or what represents a good hand, depends on your deck. It depends on, you know, like, am I okay having a bunch of dead cards in a deck that has a bunch of Wraith forms? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, because I'm living. I don't care.
I think a good hand is full of not strikes and defends. That's a big thing, right? And so you just take stuff to where it's like, to be able to spend an energy on a piercing whale, or to be able to spend an energy on this ghostly armor is just so much better than drawing that defend. Which, by the way, I like this ghostly armor, but I also think that cleave would be a huge pickup for us right now.
Yeah, cleave matters a lot for the possibility of the Sentinel fight, and we have two elites before we even get a rest.
We have a hard pull fight here too, and cleave is like a pretty critical card to not take 20 damage against Pentaslimes or Quad Gremlins.
It's very true. It is hard for me to turn down this ghostly armor, because I also am looking at that and I'm like, that's a double defend, baby, at the moment. Upgrade it even, get a 13 on it. I really like that. I heard you talk recently about I hope I'm not just putting you on the spot, but I heard you talk recently about wanting to prioritize more upgrading defensive options in your deck, right? Feeling that you don't upgrade defends or ghostly armors or things like that as much as you would like. And that is something that I find a lot of the time with Ironclad, I end up doing more. Like, I end up with Shrug It Off upgraded a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I think, like, part of that is
it's a blood vial is how I described it at the time, right? Like, if you upgrade a block card and you're playing it for value in every fight, then you're getting a small sustained relic out of it, basically. And the big question is, do you have enough damage that you wouldn't be making more health by just doing more damage? All right, that's the hard thing. Can I just upgrade another attack card and finish the fight a turn sooner? Or is the fight going to the same length regardless, and I can increase my block? And that's hard to calculate.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. But Ghostly Armor, I feel, is a really good representation of that. But I also feel like the corollary I was going to mention, corollary that's not necessarily relevant in this case, but the aside I was going to mention related to it is that I find that I do that more on Ironclad than I do on other characters, because a lot of the times I'm using block cores from other characters that are some synergistic effect of things that you're doing, right? I'm using footworks to increase my defense, or I'm becoming evasive using intangibility, Wraith Form, or something like that. And then I'm using Frost Orbs and their ongoing effects, or power on the Frost Orbs, or buffer, intangibility, again, possibly from the relics. And then we get to Watcher and pick your poison, right, in terms of how you're going to block.
One of those block cores.
But because I tend to often overlook Second Wind and Evolve and status-related synergies, I often end up upgrading those as a priority in here.
Ghostly Armor is good, and I actually think Ghostly Armor saves us more life in almost every fight in Act 1 than Cleave, except for Tri-Sentries, Quad Gremlins, and Pentaslimes, and also the Slime Boss at the end. And those fights are enough more of a threat that I think I always take Cleave here. It's good here, too.
It's not bad. Why are they attacking? Every turn! Most aggressive.
Super aggressive lice lately. I'm telling you, there's something in the air.
I don't know what it
completely
is.
agree.
I feel like I complained about it 3 weeks ago that they always attack me 2 times on turn 1, and I seldom had an encounter with them since that has not played out exactly like that. Ooh, I'm feeling better about not taking that now.
Because you see the flambe.
I do see the flambe.
I love flambe.
We are increasing
Flambe
the
is such
expected energy
utility.
expenditure of the deck a lot.
It's okay. Snecko's coming.
Snecko's coming. Ooh.
I think removal here is clean.
It is. We don't have a shop that we're going to guarantee. The defend is like the ultimate upgrade on that flame barrier, right? It means we have less fodder in the deck with the second wind, but honestly, we'll fix that later, and enemies will fix that for us.
Second wind, I'm mostly not taking for my own cards anyway. I'm taking it for statuses. So like second wind is a fantastic block for tri-sentries and for slime boss. So it's already good in this act.
Well,
oh no, we can't lose the carnage. We have to play it. Which means, do we colorless potion here? I think speed potion's better for this fight, but what if this colorless potion is like apotheosis? That's a very, very strong position to be in for Lagu.
I still think we want to use it on a turn where the enemy's attacking, because it's possible that we pull something that gives us defense or weakens the enemy or those kinds of things that isn't going to be relevant this turn. It upgrades us for 8 and then 3, so for 11 more damage.
So
this
better
turn.
now is Trip and Apotheosis. We actually would be kind of sad about Master of Strategy because we need to play Carnage no matter what, and the other types of draw things, unless we had, what's the name for Warcry Plus? Plan Ahead or whatever?
Thinking Ahead.
Thinking Ahead, yeah. And then we could put Carnage on top of the deck, and that would be really strong. But next turn would be better for Blind, for Panic Button, which we would really want to play in 2 turns, for the block cards, I guess.
It's also really good for any of the techniques.
Mm-hmm. And it's possible that actually we won't need to use it. Like, once we get this bash set up next turn, if we don't immediately redraw Carnage, we'll just use a speed potion in this fight, and then we can carry colorless into potential Gremlin Knob, and that would feel much better. So you have to play bash, right? Which makes me think we do colorless pot.
Yeah. The music just dropped out for some strange reason. It's not even on my side. We just hit the Ironclad so bad that the music stops.
Bye, Spire.
It feels weird to play Spire without hearing the music. But one big reason that I want to use the colorless this turn as well is because now there is a really good hit in Enlightenment.
There's that Thinking Ahead stinker. We could Thinking Ahead and put Flame Barrier in front of us.
Unless we get the 25% chance that we draw into the Carnage and need to put that back on top.
And then, yeah, then we'll figure it out.
I still think it has to be that, though.
I like this play, generally, yeah. We could also put Bash on top, but...
Ooh. How about this? How about we... Oh, you okay?
Always when we record. It's Spire. Am I actually allergic to Spire? That's deadly. I may be dying.
I am so sorry to hear. Well, rest in peace. We'll continue the streak in his memory. I'm gonna make sure that I like mock up your mic setup and just leave that there over on the side. It's just
with nothing. That's the tribute. Is just a bunch of it's like cords hanging out. Yeah.
We can use the bash and the second wind, burning the flame barrier and defend this turn using a speed potion to save 10 HP this turn, which I'm not entirely against.
And then just throw the cleave or the strike on top or something?
Well, it'd be bash second wind.
Right. Okay, so throw the cleave on top because that's the best attack card.
Right,
Something has to go on top.
On top of the deck, I was like, on top of that was...
Yeah.
I was misinterpreting.
No, it's all good.
This also means the deck is a little bit more damage dense.
Yeah, heck yeah. Okay.
No real choice there.
I think I would have cleaved there, dude. This is we're about to be in trouble.
What?
I would have gone Carnage Cleave and taken the 5 damage.
Oh!
Because once this debuff hits, we start to be... Although I guess it's prior to Ascension 18, so it's only ones. Yeah. It's a baby game for babies. But the cleave would have saved us 20 life here.
It would have. Dang.
Lots of times I like to math those. It can be a pain, but it's can pay off.
It definitely can. Oh dear.
Do we still have space for this clothes lean?
We have so many 2 costs.
I know. This is the trap. This is the ironclad trap. But they're all good options.
I think we still do it. Oh God.
Clotheslines block.
Yeah, it is, but
We might die. Genuinely. We've got 1 speed potion for this next floor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we just do what we can.
Save every point of HP.
Well, it depends on our draw here. I think we probably have to cleave because we need a really aggressive split. Where does that bash put us? Split point is 36.
Mm-hmm.
And so bash is already splitting.
33, so 9, 20, 24?
That's not bad. 24 is decent. That's carnage and a plonk.
Don't both attack.
Or maybe flame barrier and a carnage.
As long as they don't both attack, we're all good. All right.
No lie. 26 health is far from the end of the world here. Rather 27. Power potion was a huge pickup. In fact, I think that just saved our life.
It may do. It may well do.
If we had the evolve, you know, I'd be like, take the reckless charge, put the damage saturation. We still might need to. But then truly we just are a deck full of attacks.
Part of me is looking at this Intimidate as well. Reduces expected energy consumption per turn. Obviously, it removes the artifact from all of the Sentinels. And if we get to the Sentinels, we're really going to want to be able to bash one of them and then kill it with a Carnage.
That's true. May I see the deck?
You may.
Ooh, we're really walking a tightrope for the rest of Act 1.
Yep.
We can do it. We can do it, Raps. We can really do it. There may or may not have been a few mistakes in play there, but we're beyond them either way. This is if we survive the next fight, then we have a really clean setup for the rest of the act, and we just need to make sure we're counterpicking those fights. Okay, Clothesline, Carnage, and we need to beat Tri-Sentry, and we need to beat Gremlin Knob.
Possibly Gremlin Knob, possibly Lagerballen.
Dude, I think we have to take a reckless charge.
Let's do it.
I don't think we do enough damage to Gremlin otherwise. Particularly if we get like a turn 3 bash. And I do think we power, yeah.
Yeah. Barricade would be okay. Get the second wind, flame barrier, defend. Just we may even end up using the speed potion, get 10 more life out of that at the time.
Actually. That would be pretty sweet. Demon form versus combust, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Does combust just do more damage?
That's what I'm thinking, right? How many attacks are we launching past? Like, if we go into the rest of the deck, an expectation would be that we play a 2-cost and a 1-cost attack each turn. So next turn, it's 4 more damage. The turn after, it's 6 more damage. So it averages out over the course of 2 turns. We're not killing on the second turn. That's just not happening. We didn't set up bash.
Next turn, we have 4 strain. No, the next turn, it's 8 more damage. But even then, it might be more because of vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing...
Gotta be demon form.
You're saying we're doing 4 damage, and then... Yeah. It comes out ahead with vulnerable, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think we burn both of these out. If we cycle, we're looking for damage. It's vulnerability. Oh, it's Bastion Carnage and got the weakened
Still vuln, though. We have no defend next turn. Are we dead?
We got weakened.
Just enough. We win, baby! Oh, it's your boy! Okay.
It's your boys indeed. Hey, well, that's the first card that's been offered to us that is like,
did you
hey,
see that Reckless Charge friggin' win the fight for us, baby?
I did.
That's the business.
I did, and you know,
I was just sitting there calcing damage, and I was like, Gremlin Knob it's gonna be, this might save us 24 life.
And it did, 100%. I'm very, very pleased with that. I'm looking at this Juggernaut. We don't have our block engine online. However, every single trigger of the second wind is individual, right? It's not like Spirit Shields, which just gives you the lump sum total in an individual block instance. It gives you a block instance every instance. And also, should we add something like a Feel No Pain, which we kind of already want, it's even more instances. I like the Juggernaut a lot.
I love it. We won't have to fight Gremlin Knob again. It's one of my favorite investment picks in the game. Anchor is awesome here. That's so much more life on turn one. I think Juggernaut is awesome.
We do have...
There is a fight which could kill us.
Yes.
And it's probably actually Slaver and Slime. That's actually probably our scariest fight right now.
Ooh.
This hand is awesome. I mean, we did this, in fairness, but it's going to feel great when we have energy. Or Snecko. It's coming. We're going to get it.
We'll get
everything we ever wanted.
I believe.
Do you want a War Cry?
Yeah, manage a 2-cost card to the top of the deck. It's another card that exhausts, synergizes with the Feel No Pain. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Hup!
Oh, we brought a cleave for this.
Here we are in hell.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, that card.
Ow.
Oh, indeed. Carnage and block.
Yeah, that's the most reduction of
Just
damage incoming that we can do.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Boom. Boot.
Oh, right.
Boot value.
Boots. It was a way to get all the kills on that turn.
We have so much money, dude.
We do. We also have a lot of attacks in this deck.
I don't want these cards.
Yeah.
I don't want this. I think I'm good. There's a world where we take another cleave, but I think there's a different world where we upgrade Juggernaut and Second Wind.
I love the idea of upgrading Juggernaut, definitely.
Juggernaut is a great upgrade for Tri-Sentries and for Lagavulin too. So that doesn't hurt us. Especially with Speed Potion floating around. That's pretty good. Right, we have turns to set it up. Oh man, it's absolute money.
Why don't you die while I defend?
So do you want to wait to try to like open with Carnage?
Kind of, but also like we guarantee now, well, not guarantee. We're very likely, unless Flame is exactly the bottom card of the deck, to be able to play it next turn.
But we have Warcry to fix it up. Warcry saves.
All right, so the world where next turn we get Warcry and Flame Barrier, we drop the Flame Barrier back atop the deck and then use the
Flame Barrier is one of the next 6 cards, we put it in the next turn. And if it's not one of the next 6 cards, we put it in the next turn.
Okay.
There's only one case where we get totally screwed, and it's if Warcry is the bottom card. Cool. So we put Reckless Charge on top of the deck? Just the defend?
Just the defend, yeah, I think.
Right? Seems okay. Get damage out of it. Oh yeah, and then we can play the Reckless Charge because we know that we have Flame Barrier defend, and that's also damage. And that damage can't go down when we get debuff. Stinky shell, man.
Nice try.
Shelled individual.
Stinky shell. Clothesline only gets us 1 turn reduction of damage here. It's a reduction of 5 incoming damage, but we lose 8 damage on the enemy.
So what's Reckless Charge base? 7?
Mm-hmm.
7, 6, 13, 33, 2, 40, 39. Probably play a couple more blocks. And then if we take the extra 5, we take 20 here, 22, up to 28. We would be at 33 at the end of the fight if we successfully win in the next 3 turns with Clothesline. That's a much better position for Slime. I think...
Can we do it without the
Clothesline?
Carnage?
I think we can.
Okay.
I think we can because of... It's going to be tight. But I think we can because of second wind.
Do we want to get 14 damage out of here?
Yeah. Because we're only losing 1 strength, right? So just do the damage now. Boom. That'll do it.
Exactly 19 overall.
I'm glad I was right, but it was a little close.
It was indeed. Hey, that certainly is a shuriken.
It is. Right now, we're sure having trouble proccing it, but we can fix that.
Teak?
Hmm.
Do we ever take a Seeing Red?
I know, right? I know I'm also disturbed by this. But I'm also thinking the same thing.
It's got a little extra value from the possible Feel No Pain, which is a natural inclusion I still feel in this deck.
For the upcoming Corruption.
Ah, yes. It will be paid for free. Without an upgrade.
The other card here, which is energy, is Blood for Blood.
Mm-hmm.
And plays nicely into Shuriken, but I'm not gonna say that I like this Seeing Red.
I will tolerate
but
this Seeing Red.
But I actually think it's correct. Because all of our hands are just 2 costs.
Yep.
So like 1 extra energy actually meaningfully lets us play another good card, right?
A heck of a lot of the time.
Cleave, Second Wind, Flame Barrier.
Carnage, Clothesline.
These are a few of my favorite things.
I'd be remiss not to mention brown paper packages tied up in string.
It's true. Not sure how you upgrade it.
Untie it.
Overnight. Oh, I see. Upgrade it into a gift that you've already received.
Better splits with Carnage?
Yeah, that's the dream play, right?
It's unlikely to be able to control it that way consistently.
You know what the play here is? It's Clothesline.
Even on turn 1, it still gets the weakness by the turn the enemy attacks us.
Are we ever planning to not split first cycle? Yes, actually, because Juggernaut Second Wind is so strong. We can take more slimes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of like this, especially with the Speed Potion. Clothesline Plus and Speed Potion lets us actually take the crush. And that's a very consistent line through this fight.
One more attack, nice. Come on.
Yeah. Sade. Clothesline, please.
Has to be.
Well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
we got a Shuriken proc. Reckless Charge. Let's go. Hi. It's okay. Warcry here and like find a defend and then play them. Speed pot, Flame Barrier, defend, full block. Pretty good. Almost full block. Okay, now we're in the money. But I definitely think we play Juggernaut.
Do we also just play the Second Wind, destroy the Flame Barrier for 7 more damage?
Do 14 here. Bring him down to 91. And
we haven't got Carnage, and we've got 2 more turns to split.
Let's look at draw. Because having Flame Barrier is really, really nice for next cycle. You know, there's enough strikes in this deck. Because we're not taking 5 slimes, since we're not at Ascension 20, we really, really want saturation of good dense blocks for the next cycle, but we also want the biggest split we can.
With all these strikes,
the biggest split we can
is pretty far from us.
Huh?
With all these strikes, the biggest split we can is pretty far from us.
Yeah, but we're not. How much further over it do we ever get? Right? It's like we don't have any single giant hit without bash set up here, other than clothesline. So we're kind of playing around the edge either way. We have 1 strength. 21. Yeah, I think I pass here, right? I think so.
I was
Seeing
really
red.
hoping for 3 attacks this turn.
What are you doing? We'll get 3 attacks this turn. It's all good. In fact, we get 4.
Get him.
That's pretty good.
Get got back. What? Teak, I think we're going to heaven.
That's a streak, baby. There it went. The angiest slimes. They can do that? That's worse than a crush. That's awful.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ascension 9 says bosses are tougher, and they're not wrong.
GG, Rhapsody. That's all she wrote. The plan was good. But it sure is dead. It's the deadest.
The risk I took was calculated, but man, am I bad at math. What is this? What is
honestly,
this?
I feel like this episode had some pretty major foreshadowing when on like floor 3 we were like, oh, maybe we played that wrong.
Yeah,
Maybe we took too many 2 costs. Maybe we took too much damage.
Maybe we just drew in the wrong order. Maybe it's not our fault.
You know what?
This
This is not the first time that I've lost a ladder streak to Slime Boss. Slime Boss is, even though Slime Boss is the speedrunning fight, Slime Boss is a fairly nasty fight because of the non-determinism of phase 2. Exactly this right here is like, what kind of attack pattern am I going to get from the slimes post split? And the way you manage it is by having a really high saturation of like defense or AoE damage, or by getting a huge split, right? But we were always going to struggle to get a huge split unless we landed bash and then did a huge nuke. So I think our plan was really good. If anything, our plan would have been better at a higher ascension when we get more slimes for like making sure that second wind did, you know, a 40 damage hand or something. But
yeah,
dude,
my God. It feels like I'm about to publish a 30-minute episode.
Do you want to just chat for an hour and a half so that it looks like we, you know, like we won? I mean, we did win. We won the learning game.
We did indeed. I'll tell you what, I didn't think there was a chance. I did not in this way. I didn't think there was a chance that the slime boss was going to beat us. And I think part of that is because my approach to the slime boss, you were talking about having relatively dense block cards for the second cycle, right? My approach to the slime boss almost always is, if they're about to deal a big damage to me, I split them. And that's the secondary slimes. Obviously, you get, you know, as large a split as you possibly can on the first slime, and then the secondary slimes get closer to the ability to just stun lock them effectively for one turn by splitting them. When I die to the slimes, it's usually after I've split one, and then everyone is attacking. Both of the slimes new from the split and also the previous slime. But in those circumstances, I'm usually running really, really aggressive against this boss. A lot of the time, I'm just accepting a pretty large hit early and just investing all of it into as much of a split as I can possibly get to try and make that on the backside. But it definitely has killed me before. And
yeah, it was a brutal split.
Again.
Or rather, a brutal post-split pattern. Maybe there's a world to where we didn't upgrade Clothesline since we were planning to block a hit anyway, and we upgrade Carnage like you suggested. I'm trying to think. Post-facto analysis is really hard, but we can do it. I talk about this in stream all the time. Like, there's so many pitfalls in post-facto analysis. When we do hindsight analysis, we tend to have trouble making analyses based in context. We bring in new information that we didn't have, right? We've already seen the slime attack a certain way, so we're planning around that 36 damage post-split, but that's not something that we reasonably planned for before because it's a low percentage outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have
Actually,
to
I don't know how low
kind of,
percentage that is, but it's not always, right? Like I'm expecting an 18-12 or an 18-0 have one of them do their status. I don't know that I've ever, and only a handful of times have I seen 18-18.
Yeah, that's relatively
really
uncommon.
aggro. That's really aggro.
As you were mentioning though, like, yeah, you have to just remove the kind of things that are like, this is a nemesis play. I can only make this play knowing where I ended up.
Yeah.
So different things. Well, obviously the Carnage upgrade is a possibility in there, but we also forewent the Carnage for the Clothesline, not just in terms of upgrade, but also in terms of playing them at the time.
Yeah.
We still weren't going to split on the first cycle. That wasn't going to happen unless we had Bash in the opening hand and Carnage in the second too. Which to me says that the damage that was saved by Clothesline, like what? So we would have done. We wouldn't have played the Clothesline. We would have played the Carnage. So instead, we would have dealt 6, 8, 14 more damage. We had 14 more damage in before the split.
Yeah.
So they were at 91 HP when I proposed the second wind play, because I'm thinking if we get as close as possible, and that second wind would have the enemy was
14 damage.
150. Were they 150 already, or is it 140?
Yeah, 150 because it was a 75 split because they're tougher.
75 split.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have taken us to 87, 77, got us really close to the split. I think if we had the Carnage upgraded, I don't think it would have been impossible. I think it would have been actually really easy to convince you that we'd go for the second win for the better split.
I agree. I think the biggest thing that really put us in a bind there too is that we had 3 hands in a row basically of only attacks and slimes. And so maybe part of it was just like making a plan to either split sooner because of our upcoming hands or to even wait one more turn, right? But I think the turn that we split was the turn we were getting attacked again, wasn't it?
Yep.
Was that turn 6 or was it turn 5?
Oh, the final turn was turn 7. So it was turn 6 that we split.
So it was turn 6. So we couldn't not split because we would die. So we had to split there, and then we were drawing strikes and slimes. That's rough.
I can tell you 2 things actually as well that are related to this. The Juggernaut had a huge amount of speculative value, and it was going to be really, really good next floor. However, we paid in that fight an upgrade prior as well as 2 energy to do nothing.
Yeah.
We didn't have a much better option on the turn, but between it and seeing red, I feel like we did something that I do a lot of the time, which is I will kill myself making speculative picks because I
don't think Juggernaut was speculative, and here's why. Juggernaut was very useful in securing the Lagavulin fight. Juggernaut would have been very useful in securing Tri-Sentries if we'd rolled that instead. And Juggernaut was our plan for consistency in phase 2 damage, because every defend that we draw, and especially second wind hands, we're doing a fair amount of damage doled out to the slimes, and otherwise all we had was a cleave, unupgraded cleave, and a couple attack cards, right? So the Juggernaut I don't think was so speculative. The Seeing Red was a dead card every time we drew it, and that was rough. And there's actually some probability there that kind of makes that make sense, right? If you're drawing hands that are full of 2-cost cards and you're trying to play them, and so you insert a card that's not a 2-cost card, you've also reduced the rate of the 2-cost card hands, right? And so it almost fights itself. It's like, I'm having these hands that I can't quite pay for, so I put in another card. Now you're not getting those hands as much. I think we got kind of unlucky never seeing it with 2 costs, honestly.
With Annie, I don't think we saw it at any point with it being able to give us another
We
card
literally
to cast.
skipped playing it every time. Maybe we should have just played it to get it out of the draw, right?
That's another thing, right? Maybe we should have just gotten that out of the cycle in the first. I was still optimistic that we were going to get to the second cycle and we were going to have 2/2 costs, or maybe even just a 2 cost and 2 slimes in a hand that isn't second wind, and it still proves its value a little bit. I don't think in retrospect I would have not drafted it, but I do feel a little hard done by in terms of its draws. I understand the reasons it has a little bit, but we also have things like Warcry. We could have put other cards that are most expensive into a hand that is more likely to have Seeing Eye, or Seeing Red into a hand that was more likely to have expensive cards. It definitely... This card hated us this run. I don't like to blame the game much at all, and I'm here trying very hard not to blame the game. I don't think that's reasonable. I think it's a useful thing to do either. You don't grow out of doing that. You can't change what the game's doing.
I think there's a huge learning here. I think there's a huge learning here that reconfirms something that I've seen very consistently in my play, and it's a learning that we get because of Max Elites. Max Elites this time denied us a shop. You know what I think most anticipates beating Slime Boss? A shop. I think Slime Boss, almost more than any other boss in Act 1, really, really likes a shop.
Yeah.
Because a single Fire Potion or a single answer card like Combust goes so far to being able to beat Slime Boss. And were we not doing Max Elites, I think we cut left right there almost every time. Because we're looking at our deck and we're like, we're not ready. We're not ready for Slime Boss. We're lacking the critical density of Feel No Pain, Combust, a potion, something to make sure that we're either getting a huge split or a really consistent post split. And so I would say that Max Elites has finally delivered the ultimate lesson, which is the time to quit eliting. It's here. This is it.
Definitely. My God.
GG. No hard feeling, dude. I didn't expect Max Elites to make it this far, really. And it's not even because it's not heuristically strong. Like, Take More Elites works really well. It's just because this happens. Like, when you constrain your pathing, sometimes you can't do the right thing for your run. Sometimes you can't go to the shop. Sometimes you can't go to the rest that you have to take. Like, sometimes you just get bullied out of the only path that's permissible. And the fact that we so casually got it to Ascension 9, I think we could win a Max Elite ladder streak with just a bit of fortune in terms of like this situation.
Yes, I agree. I'm sorry, my mind is still just racing with, okay, so if
so many thoughts
here, what different choices would I have made, possible. I honestly, I worked up a name as I was doing my Ascension series. I worked up a kind of reputation in my own community for killing myself constantly by taking an upgrade instead of resting directly before a boss. And I stuck with that path for long enough to learn that I wasn't right in almost always eschewing the rest. However, the people that were telling me a lot of the time to rest also weren't right in a lot of circumstances, because a lot of the time it set me up for the next floor, and I only survived
due to an upgrade I'd taken.
Exactly. It can be.
I haven't had to explain that in a long time, but rest has its own form of greed.
Yes, I felt like here it was the greedier option.
Agreed.
Splitting out here also would have gotten us a meal ticket deal, but obviously we couldn't choose to do that.
Yeah. And we have Anchor, and we knew that we were 50-50. If we got Tri-Sentries there, Anchor's good. But in Lagavulin, it's not doing anything. Whereas in hallway fights, Anchor's almost always doing something. And so we're leaning in. Definitely... No, but we wouldn't have had the Shuriken. Okay.
Shuriken also wasn't huge for us, and I can see a world where this deck doesn't even really care that it has Shuriken.
Yeah. The Reckless Charge could have been like, there was a Pommel Strike back before, Cleave.
I don't know if Reckless Charge was in the same pick as the Pommel Strike.
I think that's what I learned here. I think if I had to derive a single takeaway, it's you take the shop. You take the shop.
Yeah. I think it would be remiss of me to overlook a very large takeaway of the more aggressive turn against the Lagavulin. Instead of taking the 5 block and saving an extra turn, I didn't math that out, and I didn't math that out because I was just like, I don't think this is going to make a difference, but it was on the borders of the parameters
it
that
was
ended
right
up making
there.
the difference.
Yeah. That's true. And you can try to analyze that out and say, okay, so we have 20 more life there, or actually less than 20 more because there was a block at the end, so like 16 more life or something. And then we go into the Gremlin Knob fight, which we won on turn 3. Right? But would we have drafted the same way if we had more life? We took a pretty aggressive reckless charge because we needed to win on turn 3.
We blocked also on the turn that that we prevented the enemy from doing that damage. So we saved 9 HP but lost 11. So it cost us 11 total. Yeah. The rest of the... Sorry, I just got caught up on the number. My apologies.
No, it's good. That's what this analysis is for. We had 18 life when we went into Gremlin, so we might have had 29 instead. No, we didn't. We had 18 life on the turn that we were getting hit, so we must have had 26.
26, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, so we had 27 because they did the 8, and then they did or were trying to do 18 next turn, which would have killed us, but we were 19. They were weakened from their 24 down to 18.
Right. Okay. Yeah, 27. That's
Gosh.
7. Okay. I mean, yeah, maybe, maybe that's enough. We probably don't rest after that. We probably upgrade, and maybe at that point, instead of upgrading what we ended up upgrading, we upgrade the cleave. Which might or might not have been good. Who knows what fights we got. We happened to get quad gremlins where the upgraded cleave would have potentially been quite good. Although the ones that we got, it wouldn't have made a difference, actually, because they were all cleave and hit.
Yeah, right? Exactly. The only thing it would have changed is the fat gremlin that weakened us on turn 1 would have been vulnerable to a single strike the next turn. But the next turn, we used a Carnage and a Defend, so we defended 10 damage that next turn by removing it. Well, 11 damage because we removed a Mad Gremlin that had taken a hit. But if we went to the next turn and just used a Strike to kill that Fat Gremlin, and then a Carnage to kill another unit on the board, or a Defend, unless we had another Strike in that hand, it would have killed the other Fat Gremlin.
Are you listening to this,
might have been the case. Sorry?
Do you hear us, Raps? This is my favorite thing. If ever someone watching does not like fully understands how in this game we are, this is it. This is like listening to a chess grandmaster remember every move in a game that they played 2 tournaments ago.
Yeah.
I can tell you almost every turn in this entire act, right? Like we remember everything that happened. We remember the health numbers within a pretty small epsilon. And so, but it also gives a really interesting insight into how much the flap of the butterfly wings matters. Because what did I just say? Saving the life in the Lagavulin fight changes our upgrade path. Because we have enough life that we don't feel the need to rest. It's so hard to do this kind of analysis because everything ripples out differently when you make one different decision in a fight. And so it's hard to say if that does win or lose, right? It's super hard to say. The only path that I think significantly increases our equity is shop. I think at some point in time, no amount of min-maxing down the path that we were on could significantly change our odds of surviving phase 2, straight up. Unless we could hold the potion. That's the one other thing on the path we were on. If we could put ourselves in a position to where we could carry the power potion in, or preferably damage, but we didn't find that, that makes a significant difference. But even if we save 5 or 10 life here or there, if we survive that turn that we were just in, we're on like 8 health.
Yeah,
and we still have 2 50 health medium slimes.
Yeah, that is that. Wow, I didn't actually even think about that. I was thinking about how do we survive this gun? Because of course, that's all you think about at the time.
There's at least 4 turns after that, at least.
Which without defense density in that deck, like sure, we might have gotten a really great turn with a defend, but we do just die after that as well. Oh god. Wait, so how much HP would we have needed to go? I think it is just shop or die. Like the potion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which makes me feel a lot better, actually. Doesn't it make you? Like when you really do that analysis, it's hard to convince yourself that a reasonable line of play on this path ever wins this act. Shop or die, baby.
Oh my god. So I heard you talk about, you know, the shop and the value and the potions and everything. I fully agreed along the entire line of it. But like, if I could like 100% agree with the value of the potions from there in the previous statement, the fact that we were just also dead next turn or the turn after, I'm now at 3,000% agree. I'm 30 times more agreed than I'd already agreed. Oh wow. Yeah.
Dude, GG. No, this is
all they wrote.
This was awesome. This is our back to Spire ladder, man.
Yeah.
You know that, right? This was our first ladder post Monster Train ladder. This is great.
That is very true, and we even took on an additional challenge in this whole Max Elite challenge.
We're gonna do more challenges. I won't tease what they are because
not at
all because we don't know what the next one's gonna be for sure. But
exactly, I definitely won't tease what they are. I might accidentally misspeak and almost say it a couple times, but I definitely won't confirm in any way.
We have more than one idea, in fairness. There's another idea that we talked about today, which is really potentially enticing. We have to do some field research, but it could be unprecedented material on YouTube. Truly.
Very literally. Cool. I'm deeply excited about those. I also agree that it's not something we should necessarily say yet at the moment. We've got some working to do around the edges and the road testing and stuff like that.
Flabbergasted. It's weird to lose in Act 1, isn't it? Kind of. It's kind of weird, right? You expect to lose like a nasty elite fight in Act 2 or boss gauntlet Act 3.
You do, but I will say that especially on lower ascensions, I find so we typically think of like Act 2 is a giant spike in the difficulty of the game, right? And it's also a really high spike in terms of player deaths.
Yeah.
But
and it should be if you're dying less in Act 2 and more in Act 3, then you're probably not taking an aggressive enough Act 2.
Yes.
Like it's supposed to be really hard. It's kind of a pivot point.
But due to how my individual playstyle at the Absolute Least is very aggressive on elites, like I still would have tried to probably take this path in the individual circumstance. If I didn't feel threatened by then, I probably still would have tried to do this.
Yeah.
Incorrectly in retrospect, but hindsight's 2020. I would say that in lower ascensions, because of the way that I try and play extremely greedily on floor 1 to try and set myself up to play greedy on floor 2 so that I can set myself up to live and survive and do whatever I want on floor 3. I end up actually like spiking my deaths in floor 1 more than on floor 2 in lower ascensions. In higher ascensions, I'm making a lot more like, this is what we need for the moment. I need to rest because, you know, this guy might just beat my ass directly off. I've got more of those considerations going on, but because of the kind of like more aggressive play that is mimicked in Max Elites here, I definitely tend to have more Act 1 deaths at that point. Wow.
And some of this also might be just disrespect. It's part of the reason I've been trying to do Ascension 20 runs on stream is to keep myself honest about what that's like. Because if you play too many Ascension 1 through 10 runs in a row, you start to forget like what the game can spike up to, you know, and you totally disrespect it, and so you start being less precise in deck construction, which is really where you feel that's the difference between consistent effectiveness as you get to a higher level is precise deck building, particularly for classes like Ironclad that have such a limit of access to energy and draw, right? So. I said classes like Ironclad, like we're looking at a MOBA's roster of heroes, but there's really there's 4. There's 4 in this game. For those following along from home.
They're all in some way similar to the Ironclad. They have cards. My name has been Rhapsody. Could give straight face. I still think it's the correct one though. My name's been Rhapsody. His name's been sneakyteak. This has been season 5 of the Ladder Streak. Hopefully
it was a damn good one.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like we might have had a higher density of nutty decks Because
that's true.
I can't think of any that wasn't a banger in some way. Like, how in some way?
This was also a banger. It just exploded in our face.
Yeah, exactly.
But all the rest were
had
bangers
a hell of a bang
the...
to it.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I think my favorite deck so far happened in this season. I talked about it relatively recently, the Watcher one that we ran.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
It really was
a fantastic run.
Man,
good times, good memories. More to come, more seasons.
You'll find them where you've always found them, but you can also find more Slay the Spire content and broadly content over at twitch.tv/sneakyteak, link in the description down below. For the moment, we've been us, you being you. This has been Season 5. Hopefully you've been enjoying it, and hopefully we'll see you next season.